thank you so much for joining our new talk show. Super excited to have you be a part of it. I do need to let our lovely listeners know a little bit more about you. I'm hoping that many of our listeners have heard of you before because you have built up quite a big following, which is amazing. But for those who don't know who you are, I want to let them know a little bit about you. So I'm here with Lizzie, and she is an alternative fashion photographer. She's amazing. I think the last time I saw her was a few years ago, but just looking at her work now, it's only gotten even more amazing. And for those of you that don't really know what alternative fashion is, it's the type of fashion that you see popular within the festival culture. So that's the type of clothing and alternative wear that you would see people who go to Burning Man wearing, or Electric Forest, for example. It tends to be very bold, vibrant, bright, unique. And the way Lizzie incorporates it in her portraiture, she makes it just look outerworldly and really, really cool. Lizzie's also a model, so I'm excited to talk to somebody who is both a photographer and model and hear a little bit about those two different perspectives and how they come together to affect each other. So you're going to hear a little bit about her, get to talk about that. She's a super awesome, self-confident, self-aware, self-loving individual who spreads those vibes to everyone she meets, and I think that's really awesome. So again, thank you so much for being here, Lizzie. I first want to hear how you got started in specifically this alternative fashion wear photography. I'm sure that's a great story, so tell us.
Okay. First of all, thank you for that introduction. It was really lovely. Made me blush a little bit. So I first got started shooting festivals themselves. I realized that I could have access to a bunch of events if I brought my camera and I shot the festival for a blog. So I typically would shoot with families and DJs and people dancing in the crowd, all the festival lifestyle type photos that you typically see come up after an event. And after about a year of that, I linked up with a brand called Spirit Hoods, and they sent me a hood. They sent me my first influencer gift and asked me to take photos with it at an event. So I brought it with me to Desert Hearts, and I shot some photos of it on my best friend Paris. And they loved the photos so much they sent another box. And that kind of got some gears turning in my head when I realized that I hadn't seen anyone focusing on the fashion, particularly shooting for brands at festivals. So I realized that there was a space in the market for something like this. So I started shooting with Spirit Hoods more and more, and then at Woogie Weekend a few years ago, I and two of my friends who I was getting used to photographing at the time, we introduced ourselves to every single vendor at that festival and pulled something from every vendor, took photos of the models in it, and then returned the items afterward. And that's when I started to understand that this could really be something that hasn't been tapped into. And so from there on, I started contacting all the brands that I was attracted to, all the ones that I loved their style, their clothing, and it really helped me develop my own love for fashion, as well as help me really corner in on the niche of the market.
Amazing. This is Jasper, by the way. He just busted in here to say hi. I am sitting on my floor, so he decided to come and hang out. Yeah, so really cool to hear how you kind of started to get, or how you got into specifically this niche. And since you started talking about it, I really want to hear a little bit more about how you work with different brands. How do you find them or attract them to you? I think a lot of people really would love to learn more about how do you become an influencer? How do you get to a point where you have that portfolio that brands will pick you up? It's something you do very well. And obviously you had a good eye to see kind of ahead of the trend. Like, there's not a lot of people doing this right now, so let me jump on it, which was really smart of you. But please share some of your wisdom with us on that.
Okay. So I got pretty lucky in the fact that there was a container, like this space where brands would go. So there was a place where there would be vendors. And so I started targeting in that way, going up and like I had a book of photos I had created. I said, hey, like I just want to introduce myself face to face because I could tell that these smaller businesses, they care about who they work with. They want to know you, they want to know your intentions, and they really care about their product and what they create. And so it was really a lot of in-person work in the beginning. And then eventually I opened up a marketing company with a partner of mine, and we started reaching out to brands through Instagram so that they could see my portfolio, see what I created. We would reach out to a certain number per day, and then get their emails, send them more information, and just kind of created a sales funnel in that way, which allowed me to really work with some brands that I might not have had the ability to meet in person or to possibly schedule things ahead of time before an event. And it's from there that things stopped happening only at events and also in the lifestyle editorial space when I was living in Vegas, where I would be able to receive a shipment from a brand, shoot with the products, book the models, hair, makeup, everybody, and then deliver edits and return the product to the brand. So I think it's really a lot of the closed mouth don't get fed. You have to put yourself out there, see a brand, understand why you would be an asset to that brand, send them a concept or something exciting to show that you've already done a little bit of the work. And I also think that a major benefit is when you can bring models, hair, makeup, location, and concept to a brand because they are very busy wearing many hats. And some of them might have some direction in those ways, but a lot of the brands that I've worked with, I feel like I've gotten the client and they've been excited about it because I approached them like, here's the entire plan, sign the box, and that's not to say that it's not open for customization because it is a really like personalized process for each brand, but people love when you make it easy for them to invest in you and to work with you.
Yeah, really good advice. And I think that some people may think that, a brand ambassador or influencer, they just build up this big following and then brands just fall into their laps. And maybe for some people that does happen, but I think it's important to see kind of the behind the scenes of how this works and that it does take some hard work and some effort, and that even if you feel like, well, I'm never going to make that big following, or I don't, I have 300 followers on Instagram, how can I work with brands? That don't shy away from it just because of that, that putting in the right amount of work and effort, can pay off, and then you can reach those levels. And now, I'm hoping for you that it's become easier as you've kind of, gained more recognition and people have seen the work you've done and that sort of thing.
I think that like being organized on the back end as well, like if I get, and being professional, like if I get a brand's email, I'm going to follow up with an email that says, here's my portfolio with a clickable link. Here's the process in which I typically work with brands. And then just like, here's my number if you want to hop on a call. And so you take them from online to email to phone call. And in the process, they get to know you and they also get to know your process. Because for a lot of small brands, it's a big deal to send a box of things to somebody. It's a big deal to invest, a few $100s. It's scalable. And I also think that another way to build following and recognition is not only focusing on the brands, but also focusing on the models that you would like to work with. So making sure that your model is able to be like expressive in the way that the brand needs, and it's also a great idea to work with models that have been building their recognition and their portfolios as well. And then you have makeup artists that have followings, and so there's so many aspects that you can mix together to make this cocktail of an amazing shoot that is going to go out through multiple streams, multiple networks, and be reshared on the internet.
Yeah, I love that. That kind of leads me to my next question, which is how do you find the models and makeup artists that you work with, especially that like you said, you make sure really fit with that specific brand or that specific shoot?
When I really got started, I was living in Vegas. Now I live in San Francisco, but when I was living in Vegas, I was very lucky to also be tapped in with the music scene there. So I was able to use a ton of the go-go's, performers, dancers that were living in Vegas for that reason. And those girls would come prepared. They would come with 5 sets of shoes, like all of the accessories, like disco balls in their cars. It was amazing. But I always find that for my specific niche, following the music brings me to creative people. And sometimes it's like seeing the potential in somebody that might not have, modeled before, approached you, but like really always being on the lookout. And I also am very thankful for the powers that be of Instagram, because it allows you to, look at somebody's work, reach out to them, create a relationship. I have kind of come to a process where if I like somebody's work, I reach out to them, get their information, I put them in a database on Google Drive, and then I have them sorted by city. So I know if I'm going to be in Reno and I need 3 male models and 2 female models, I need these sizes, I can go into that database that I've built through, excuse me, through, scouting on Instagram and online, and often asking somebody who lives there, who's close to the scene, close to the music scene, do you know anybody that might work for this gig? So it's a lot of word of mouth, a lot of research, a lot of scouting, but I think it's like when you get excited about what you're doing, you get excited to bring people in. And I'm so thankful that I've been able to work with so many creatives. I haven't had to go through modeling agencies. I haven't had to find people who don't care about what I'm doing. It's been a lot of like attracting the people that feel called to make art with you, which I think is such a blessing in itself. But there's tons of resources, tons of people out there that want to create. They want to get, they want to get creative with you and make art and be seen. It's a beautiful experience.
Yeah, amazing. I think that's really important too, is that building up that network like you've done, and that takes work too and effort. And it can be hard if you're not automatically someone who's outgoing and confident. You kind of got to really push yourself to it. But it really does pay off, because then you have those connections to call on, or if you're not finding the right person, somebody else might know of that person that you're looking for that shoot.
Also, sorry to interrupt you, but if you have a budget from your client, reaching out to somebody with a network. So say if you reached out to me and you said, hey, I need to do a shoot in LA. I need 2, female models. I have a budget. I'm going to be thrilled to want to get some of my models paid. I'm going to want to direct some of that into the community. So I'm, going to be like, oh my gosh, yes, here's some models. And so don't be afraid of rejection via communication. I think just like whether you're communicating with brands, whether you're communicating with models, other photographers, asking for advice, like be vulnerable, ask, be a learner, and be somebody who isn't afraid of being left on red, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that something you kind of try to push for when you're working with clients or brands, with the budgeting, to make sure that there is an amount set aside for the models or whatever other creatives you're working for?
Yeah, I want to make sure that it is bringing tangible value to all people who are spending their time on the shoot. Whether that be, one of the amazing clothing items that the brand creates, if the models value that, or it be, payment. Everybody is working from a different space brand-wise. There's some people that make amazing things and don't have budget. There's some people that do have budget. It really, I think in a typical economy, it would be like, these are my rates, you pay them or don't. But I feel so passionate and excited about small business, and I feel so passionate and excited about individual creators, that there's always a way to assemble the team that can make it work where everybody is getting the value they need.
Mm-hmm. I think that's an amazing way to put it, and it's so important to look at this and really think about it and talk about it like we're doing. I like how you're saying just making sure everyone's getting that value they need, whatever it is, whether it's money, whether it's trade, whether it's they really want these images for their portfolio because they see a benefit in them, or they really love that brand and they just want some of those pieces. As long as it feels like it is a value to them, then that's what's important. And I
Right.
think people get confused on the whole trade for print thing and what that means and who's working for free. But it's just so important to check in and make sure everyone feels that they are valued and they are, really
Right.
considered a part of that shoot. I know for me personally, a lot of times, like with fashion especially, there's no way I could make those pictures without that awesome model, the hair, the makeup. I can't do makeup like that. It's like all these people come together to make that picture what it is, and we can't just do it by ourselves. So it's great
Right.
to, I think, really give that recognition to the whole team where it's, where
Mhm.
it's due.
Totally. And I feel like when everyone feels valued, compensated, excited, the image like energetically will go further. You will look at this image and you will see that everybody was like really gunning to make it happen. And I think that that translates.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I want to hear specifically about some of the brands you've worked with maybe recently that you're really excited about, that you really felt like the images turned out exactly the way you want or something like that. Just
Right.
kind of want to hear some of the specifics.
Cool. I am so beyond lucky to have so many clients that feel like family. And I know that I'm going to skip over some that I love so much, and I'm so thankful for their business and the art that we get to create together. I'm very thankful for my relationship with Warrior Within. Their products inspired me. Initially, I began shooting with them, and they inspired me so much to create these powerful, female warrior images where the subject is empowered and strong. And eventually, I asked them to dress me for a festival, and through that relationship, I started modeling their clothing, and I've just felt so supported and loved from that team from day one. I'm very thankful for them, and thankful for the overall empowerment that they give to our community. Um, Another client that I adore is Jay Valentine. She makes really, really beautiful like festival costume wear. The Light Up Fur. I work with her every year creating her catalog, and her products just look like the inside of my brain if I were to take it out of my head and throw it against a wall and create something beautiful. She is such an amazing human. Um, I'm so thankful for Spirit Hoods because they really gave me that first opportunity that got the gears turning. I'm thankful for brands like, Relita Couture, who are booking more plus size models and investing in me. I've gotten to work with some dream clients like Yandy and MeUndies and um, really all over the board. I mean, I just sometimes scroll through my Instagram and think about all these collaborations that I've been able to put together. Sometimes I will put together a collab shoot, is what I call it, where I will reach out to 5 small businesses that might not have the opportunity to pay for or book a shoot on their own or have the resources. And so I'll get like a sunglasses company and like a hat company, a clothing company, a makeup company, and swirl those together with influencer models and kind of create opportunity for those small businesses to have larger influence, and to receive content at a discounted rate because they're doing it with others. And so there's so many of those smaller brands, individual creators that really make up the fabric of what I do as well. So I'm so thankful for my big players, and I'm also very thankful for just anybody who's ever sent me a pair of sunglasses or a bracelet or you know something to be worked in. There's a place for everybody, and I encourage that if anybody is listening here and wants to go look through my Instagram and click through any of the brands there, are pretty much all run by fucking amazing people. Amazing
You're not
people.
censoring.
I was
That's
like,
such
oh,
a that's such a cool idea. And real quick, I want to make sure everyone knows what your Instagram is so they can find you after this.
okay, yeah, it's Lizzie Rose Media. So LazzieRosemedia.
Perfect. And we'll put links in when we share this as well so
Cool.
everyone can find that. But that is such an amazing idea to combine the brands like that and kind of give the smaller brands a chance to, do
Yeah.
those shoots as well. I've never thought of that. And I just think that's so cool. I do want to make sure we get a chance to talk a little bit more about your modeling before we run out of time. So I'd love to hear about how you started doing more of your own modeling, how that's affected your photography or vice versa.
Right. Um, So for about 2 years, I think, I was only behind the camera, creating shoots for my clients and, booking the models, hair, makeup, everything we've talked about before. And then I did ask Warrior Within to dress me at Lightning in a Bottle. And there was a photo that was taken of me, and I'm wearing the onesie, and it was one of my favorite photos. And I started to realize, similarly to when I realized that there was space in the market for a fashion photographer, I did not see any plus size models or influencers in our community at all. I hadn't booked them myself, and I was, I'm somebody who does try to book diverse models, does try to book, different types of women. And I hadn't booked anybody like me for 2 years. And I didn't see anybody to do so with. And, maybe they just weren't feeling represented or they weren't out there. But I started realizing, you know, there is space here for something different. There's space here for something new. And so I started, really getting into my own sense of deserving to be seen on the lens, just like I had told people for years that they deserve to be preserved. And so I would, even just set up the settings and give a friend the camera and be like, let's try this, let's work this out. And eventually I started realizing that when I would post a photo of myself and I would speak from my heart, about my experiences with accepting myself, the ripple effect of that was huge. People were coming forward and relating to the captions, relating to the stories. And I realized it was bigger than me. And my heart is really in that mission because I want people to feel like they deserve to be adorned and colorful. And I really have found fashion and being on the other side of the lens to be incredibly healing in that way, because the concept of being preserved, like, you have to decide that you're worthy of like being captured, and that's such a big deal. And photography can be so healing for other people in that way, and I've like been the facilitator of that. And so I was just kind of deciding, I deserve this too. Nobody out here is really doing it. I can help other people in this way. And so from there, it became a lot of my clients. It was right on par with the movement of a lot of clients starting to make bigger sizes and, be more inclusive. And I was able to kind of get on that wave and also bring everything I needed to the table as far as content styling and everything I was already prepared to bring. Um, and then there's also the concept of, as a photographer, it has helped me to be on the other side of the lens because I understand what kind of direction to give more so. I understand, the feeling that the other person is in when the lens is being pointed at them. And I think that that's been a strengthening asset as well.
I love that. And I loved hearing how you've really just, been ahead of the trend on multiple of these things. And just so cool how you just, you noticed this lack and you jumped in to fill that hole. That's just, sorry, now I'm losing my voice. That's something that so cool, and I really respect, and I respect you getting in front of the lens. A lot of us photographers are too afraid to jump out there ourselves. I mean, I've explored with it myself because I think there is a lot of value, just like you said, in putting your own self out there. And then when you're valuing yourself in that way of like, well, I deserve to be in front of the camera, then you can embody that more when you're telling other people.
Right. It's so scary to have a camera pointed at you. I always say, like, I know this feels like I'm pointing all your insecurities and fears at you, but like, if you can breathe through it and overcome it and embody, your highest, most powerful form here, and you can forget about all that, like, it is a really, truly healing and beautiful experience. And I always tell the people I photograph, I will never post a bad photo of you. Try things, do things, move into it, be, give me some variety to work with, give, like, really embody this, try things. And like, I won't let you down. And I think like telling your subject that it like empowers them to like, okay, like, I'm excused. I'm not gonna show up on the internet in this outtake.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't think I would have known to say that without being on the other side.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree with all that. We're getting close to running out of time, so I wanted to make sure we touched on a few more things. I wanted to kind of just hear from you what you feel like your specific messages that you spread through your work, if you could kind of summarize it
Yeah.
in a few
Okay.
sentences.
I'll be brief and make it potent. Um, I feel like the message of my work is that, like, very come as you are and be vibrant, you know, be who you are out loud. I want to provide 30 seconds or 10 seconds or however long somebody looks at my work. I want them to feel at peace. I want them to feel empowered, and I want them to pass it on. And I just want to make the world a juicier place.
I love that. That's amazing. And really quick, because I don't think we got to touch on it yet, but your work is so colorful. I mean, that's like one of the first things that stands out, the colors, the rainbows, the vibrancy. And is that something you purposely incorporated? Is that something that means something specific to you to have in your work?
Yeah, I think it's just how my style has always been. I love color. I think that I'm also inspired by the clothing that my clients make. I'm inspired by the colorful surroundings that we're at when we're at a festival or an event. I just gravitate to all things juicy and saturated and colorful. And I think that color is something bold that a lot of people are scared to embody, or that doesn't feel natural or right to them. But I think that cars should come in a million colors. I think hair should come in a million colors. I think that, I just love the concept of color therapy. I want somebody to look at an image and for the blues to be calming and the yellows to be invigorating. And I want them to have like a little art therapy session when they look at it. So I don't know. Yeah, more rainbows.
Amazing. Well, we're almost out of time, so I just want to see if there's any other advice you wanted to leave our listeners with today before we say goodbye to you. I mean, I could talk to you all day, but we don't have all day. So.
I want to say that whatever it is that within you that wants to be released or spoken or shared, scream it from the top of a fucking rooftop and live out loud, because we don't got much time. And whatever is most potent in you that wants to be communicated is what the world needs.
I love it. And I love you. You're so inspiring. I'm so excited to share you with all of our listeners. Thank you so much for joining us today, and stay safe out there. All right.
Thank you for the opportunity to let me ramble. Love you all.
Bye.